How Dorothy Saved the Scarecrow. When Dorothy was left alone, she set about making ready for the journey to the City of Emeralds. She had only one other dress, which was hanging on a peg beside her bed. The girl dressed herself in the clean gingham with checks of white and blue, and tied her pink sunbonnet to her head. She took a little basket and filled it with bread from the cupboard, laying a white cloth over the top. Then she looked down at her feet and noticed how old and worn her shoes were. "They surely will never do for a long journey, Toto," she said. And Toto looked up into her face with his little black eyes and wagged his tail to show he knew what she meant. At that moment Dorothy saw the silver shoes that had belonged to the Witch of the East. "I wonder if they will fit me," she said to Toto. They would be just the thing to take a long walk in. She took off her old leather shoes and tried on the silver ones, which fitted her as well as if they had been made for her. Finally, she picked up her basket. "Come along, Toto," she said. "We will go to the Emerald City and ask the Great Oz how to get back to Kansas again." She closed the door, locked it, and put the key carefully in the pocket of her dress. And so, with Toto trotting along soberly behind her, she started on her journey. There were several roads nearby, but it did not take her long to find the one paved with yellow bricks. Within a short time she was walking briskly toward the Emerald City, her silver shoes tinkling merrily on the hard yellow road bed. The sun shone bright and the birds sang sweetly, and Dorothy did not feel nearly so bad as you might think a little girl would, who had been suddenly set down in the midst of a strange land. She was surprised as she walked along to see how pretty the country was about her. There were neat fences at the sides of the road, painted a dainty blue color, and beyond them were fields of grain and vegetables in abundance. Once in a while she would pass a house, and the people came out to look at her and bow low as she went by, for everyone knew she had been the means of destroying the wicked witch and setting them free. The houses of the Munchkins were odd-looking dwellings, for each was round with a big dome for a roof. All were painted blue, for in this country of the East, blue was the favorite color. Toward evening, when Dorothy was tired with her long walk, she came to a house rather larger than the rest. On the green lawn before it many men and women were dancing. 5 little fiddlers played as loudly as possible, and the people were laughing and singing while a big table nearby was loaded with delicious fruits and nuts, pies and cakes, and many other good things to eat. The people greeted Dorothy kindly and invited her to supper and to pass the night with them, for they were gathered to celebrate their freedom from the bondage of the wicked witch. Dorothy was waited upon by a Munchkin whose name was Bock. As she watched the people dance, when Bock saw her silver shoes, he said, "You must be a great sorceress." "Why?" asked the girl. "Because you wear silver shoes and have killed the wicked witch. Besides, you have white in your frock, and only witches and sorceresses wear white." "My dress is blue and white checked," said Dorothy. "It is kind of you to wear that," said Bock. "Blue is the color of the Munchkins, and white is the witch color, so we know you are a friendly witch." Dorothy did not know what to say to this, for all the people seemed to think her a witch, and she knew very well she was an ordinary little girl. When she had tired, Bock led her into the house, where he gave her a room with a pretty bed in it. Dorothy slept soundly till morning, with Toto curled up beside her. The next morning she ate a hearty breakfast and asked, "How far is it to the Emerald City?" "I do not know," answered Bock gravely, "for I have never been there. But it is a long way to the Emerald City, and it will take you many days. The country here is rich and pleasant, but you must pass through rough and dangerous places before you reach the end of your journey." This worried Dorothy a little, but she knew that only the Great Oz could help her get to Kansas again, so she bravely resolved not to turn back. She bade her friends good-bye and again started along the road of yellow brick. When she had gone several miles she thought she could stop to rest, and so climbed to the top of the fence beside the road and sat down. There was a great cornfield beyond the fence, and not far away she saw the Scarecrow placed high on a pole to keep the birds from the ripe corn. Dorothy leaned her chin upon her hand and gazed thoughtfully at the Scarecrow. Its head was a small sack stuffed with straw, with eyes, nose, and mouth painted on it to represent a face. Dorothy was surprised to see one of the eyes slowly wink at her. She thought she must have been mistaken at first, for none of the Scarecrows in Kansas ever wink. But presently the figure nodded to her in a friendly way. "Good day," said the Scarecrow in a rather husky voice. "Did you speak?" asked the girl in wonder. "Certainly," answered the Scarecrow. "How do you do?" "I'm pretty well, thank you," replied Dorothy politely. "How do you do?" "I'm not feeling well," said the Scarecrow with a smile, "for it is very tedious being perched up here night and day to scare away crows." "Can't you get down?" asked Dorothy. "No, for this pole is stuck up my back. If you will please take away the pole, I shall be greatly obliged to you." Dorothy lifted the figure off the pole, for, being stuffed with straw, it was quite light. "Thank you, I feel like a new man," said the Scarecrow when he had stretched himself and yawned. "Who are you, and where are you going?" "My name is Dorothy," said the girl, "and I'm going to the Emerald City to ask the Great Oz to send me back to Kansas." "Where is the Emerald City?" he inquired, "and who is Oz?" "Why, don't you know?" she returned in surprise. "No, indeed, I don't know anything. You see, I am stuffed, so I have no brains at all," he answered sadly. "Do you think, if I go to the Emerald City with you, that Oz would give me some brains?" "I cannot tell," she returned, "but you may come with me if you like. If Oz will not give you any brains, you will be no worse than you are now." "That is true," said the Scarecrow. "You see," he continued confidently, "I don't mind my body being stuffed because I cannot get hurt. But I do not want people to call me a fool, and if my head stays stuffed with straw instead of with brains as yours, how am I ever to know anything?" They walked back to the road and started along the path of yellow brick for the Emerald City. Toto smelled around the stuffed man and growled in an unfriendly way at the Scarecrow. "Don't mind Toto," said Dorothy to her new friend. "He never bites." "Oh, I'm not afraid. He can't hurt the straw. But there is only one thing in the world I am afraid of. A lighted match," replied the Scarecrow. At noon they sat down by the roadside to rest. "Tell me something about yourself and the country you came from," said the Scarecrow. So she told him all about Kansas, and how gray everything was there, and how the cyclone had carried her to this land of Oz. The Scarecrow listened carefully and said, "I cannot understand why you should wish to leave this beautiful country and go back to the dry, gray place you call Kansas." "That is because you have no brains," answered the girl. "No matter how dreary and gray our homes are, we people would rather live there than in any other country. There is no place like home." Toward evening they came to a great forest where the trees grew so big and close together that their branches met over the road of yellow brick and shut out the daylight. But the travelers did not stop and went on into the forest. The Scarecrow, who declared he could see as well as by day, led her through the trees until they reached a cottage. Dorothy entered and lay down at once, and with Toto beside her soon fell into a sound sleep. The Scarecrow, who was never tired, stood up in a corner and waited patiently until morning came.